Earlier in the year, I sold my side project Vibecast, a website builder designed specifically for DJs. The sales process was relatively straightforward. There were a lot of things I got right, but there were a few things I could have done better. When it comes to selling your product, like building it, there are a million different ways to do the same thing. This video is about the process that I went through with things I hope you can learn so you can bake into your product or new business idea now if you're thinking about selling it in the near future. Before I continue, I would like to make it clear that Vibecast earned me a total of $65,000. This was over 3 revenue streams. The final sale price itself, I sold 2 licenses to use some of the code for non-competing industries. One was a church website builder and the other one was a podcast application and the monthly subscriptions themselves. Unfortunately, due to NDAs, I can't talk about the final sale price or the licensing agreements, but what I can say is the 18 months between launching and selling, I earned around $12,000 from users who subscribed to user service. Let's talk about how Vibecast was sold. This is what I call an asset sale, not a company sale. So I didn't sell a limited company to anyone. I sold all the digital assets that made up Vibecast, effectively login details for the code repository, for where the server is, for the newsletters and social medias. This made things a lot easier, especially as you're a small indie product. The chances are of doing a full company sale is probably overblown. You want to be able to do it as an asset sale. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot easier. When you are doing it this way, what you want to make sure is when you're doing an asset sale is you've ring-fenced everything. This is one of the things that I did get right. As soon as I thought of the name and registered the .com, the first thing I did was set up an email account, obviously, and then any service that I used, so like the server, newsletter, social media, anything else, even though I had all these accounts set up already for my freelance company so I can spin them up and down for clients, it made actually transferring, there was nothing to transfer. Like the site didn't go down, there was no code to hand over, there's no nothing. It was just, here's the login details for everything, they're now yours. And here is the star of the show. This is an open letter I penned to sell Vibecast. I say open letter, it's just a post I put onto Medium. But I've been quite open about Vibecast, about building it, about the revenue that it's been generating. So I just thought I'll openly try and sell it too. Even if you're not going to do it this way, I understand, you're probably still going to sell it through an exchange or through an intermediary, or if not, you probably want to put a pitch together of some sort to the person that wants to buy it. Explain exactly what's on the menu, what framework it is, what code bases you're using, how it's put together, what the revenue is, has it increased, has it decreased over a period of time. Any assets that you got, significant assets, like this is the logo we got here. Things like the domain name, I spent the domain name vibecast.com cost me $2,000, although I got them down from $8,000. But it's things like this. You want to make sure that this is all put together on a single place where everybody can read everything. I've listed down all the code bases that's been used, how the server's set up and all the infrastructure, any other domain names that I've got, social media that I've got, newsletter, legal documents, branding, any quick wins so people can finish off stuff that I've been working on just to get it out there. So that's it really. Have a look, read through it yourself, and you can take elements out of this, but no matter how you're going to sell your product, you probably need some sort of pitch together, so to speak, before you do. Now we're prepped and ready for sale, this is where you want to think about who might buy it. One of the first things I did was email it out to my user base. Not everybody, I emailed it out to 20% of the most active users. So these are people that were on it quite a lot, they've been subscribers for quite a while, they use the help center quite a bit, and you've probably spoken to them maybe once or twice in the past before. It could be quite interesting to the people that are actually using your product. I also considered approaching large companies that also sell to DJs. These would have to be extremely large companies, so it might be quite difficult to get in. But someone like that, they would have a marketing budget and it will be a tiny amount to buy like a side project. And what they could do is offer Vibecast for free, but then have their own branding on it. And what it would be is a marketing tool. So it will come out of a marketing budget for them. They would offer a service for free in terms of getting their brand out there, but the service is actually quite useful. So if you think you've got something that a brand could be interested in and the price is right, chances are they'll buy it just from their marketing budget. I had partnered with several other companies that also supply to DJs. One was a DJ course. The other one was DJ conferences. Another one was DJ supplier. And during the years that I had Vibecast running, what I did was I partnered with them. So if they were running an offer or they had some pro account or they spent a specific amount of money, I would offer Vibecast free for 6 months. They would get like a unique code, or even a year sometimes. But if you do partner with someone like I did, they would be also very good people that might be interested in your product. In fact, it was one of those partners that brought Vibecast. Now this is the time where you'd probably go through due diligence. This is where the person buying your company will want to sniff around as much as possible to see what they know about the company that they're buying, or in this case, the assets that they're buying. Again, with an asset sale and it being a side project, it usually isn't too complicated because you're not selling a company with a company account, you're just selling assets. What you do want to do is give them access to your payment provider. In my case, that was Stripe, and then they can see that the monthly subscriptions are the monthly subscriptions. And then you give them a list of the services that you're using to run Vibecast, and that's it basically. Due diligence on this level will probably be done mostly in the code base. Now, this can be quite tricky. I was a bit nervous at this point because it's code, it can be copy and pasted. And like I said, we're not doing this through lawyers. It's just one person, another developer looking at my code. And I effectively have to give it to them for them to check through it, which means they've got a copy of it, which they're about to pay for. Now, obviously, I had a lot of trust in the person I was buying for, so I didn't have any problems there. But you do want to be careful. One thing I did do, even through this process, was I didn't give them access to the whole code. What I did is I gave them access to sections of the code, certain sections that are not necessarily linked together, but give you an overview of how the code might work. And then what I did was I had a screencast or a FaceTime or a Google Meet with them where they can see my screen and I can show them any file that they wanted to see. So they can see it on the screen and then cross-reference what they got, but they necessarily couldn't take it. And that's what I did, and it seemed to work well. Everyone was quite happy having a look through. It protected me. It just means I wasn't going to give up my entire code base. Again, if you're a bigger company and you're doing this, you're probably going to have lawyers go between you, and you will be protected from that. But when you've got someone looking at your code and they want to do full due diligence, or it could be someone who's seen you on the marketplace, they're going through the process, they're going to do due diligence, but they're not, they're just doing it to get into your code base. So be careful at this point, be absolutely careful, protect yourself here. There's no reason why they should need to take the whole code base without seeing parts of it. So that's what I would look out for. Now we're at the contract time. This is where you want to negotiate, obviously, the contract of sale. This will be unique for whatever you need it to be. This can be as complicated or as simple as you need it to be. But obviously you want to get as much as you can down in writing. When it came to a contract, because he was in one country, I was in another, we went to a remote lawyer between us and then just split the cost. He drew up a contract that we were both happy with. And some of the points that I stipulated to have in the contract from my point of view are these. So make sure you're covered with the code base. I put in there effectively sold as seen. If they found a problem with the code that wasn't overly significant and it was caused before they bought it, does that mean it's your fault? Now, no, it shouldn't be, because the nature of software is that they're going to find bugs. That's just how it works. So it's up to them to do as much due diligence as possible, and I stipulated sold as seen. So if there's any problems with the code base, that's it. It's down to them to fix. One of the things that I didn't get right was, because I was working on Vibecast for so long, and there was one point where I thought it was going to be the next big thing, I ended up switching over to jack@vibecast.com as my primary email address. That was a bit of a mistake. So even though I could tell Vibecast sale was coming up last year, I started migrating everything to my Airbox Media, my freelance company. But there was obviously recruiters or people I've been speaking to or contacts that I've been made that would have had my Vibecast email. So I had to stipulate in the contract, because obviously they were getting the domain name, that they would forward jack@vibecast.com to my current email address for 12 months. The next one that you want to have a look for is non-competing clauses. So I'm a developer, a freelancer, I build websites, and I specialize in creative and entertainment industries. So if I sold this and there was a non-compete clause going up, what does that mean? So you want to be careful. Does that mean I can't work for another website builder? Does that mean I can't produce work for other DJs? Now, I would expect for me not to spin up another version of Vibecast immediately after I sold it. That's a given, and that'd be in the contract. But what I stipulated was not to promote anything within the dance music industry, not to promote a digital product in the dance music industry. What that means is it left me free to be able to work on other stuff. And should the person I was working with, promote it, it doesn't leave me in jeopardy. The next one you want to look for is able to use the same code. So Vibecast isn't anything unique in terms of how it's built. It's another website builder. There are millions of them out there. It was just unique in terms of its marketing message because I was hitting a demographic that, isn't served by anybody else. So that means that there's nothing unique specifically about Vibecast. So if I start writing products for other people, or, it needs a login system, or need to embed YouTube or Vimeo or, SoundCloud or add galleries, these are features that are on Vibecast. Am I breaking my contract by adding those similar things in for somewhere else? So I just stipulated that anything standards, basically don't spin up Vibecast again for like 12 months. And the handover process as well. This is what I added into the contract. So it's all great selling it over to them, but you'll probably want to have a period of time where you're giving them a handover and a bit of consultancy period for them. I stipulated this as an extra payment. So they had the sale of the product itself, plus we agreed X amount of time for X amount of money for me to do a consultancy handover, and then we fixed a rate, a day rate or an hourly rate, for me to do any more work outside of the agreed handover period. So these are sort of things that you want to add in the contract as well, because it could be a point that you just don't want to work on it, after your handover period, and that's understandable. And that means you're free not to do that, and there's no comeback for you as well. The handover process, this one is pretty straightforward. I listed all the services that are connected to Vibecast on a Google spreadsheet and then sent it over to them. It had the login details. They would go in, change the login details, bosh, it's now handed over to them. No downtime, no disruption to any services. One thing I forgot to mention before in the contract, which is something that happened on this project, on this sale, they weren't able to pay the full amount straight away. So there was like 60% up front, I think 40% about 3 or 4 weeks later. All I did was I held on to the vibecast.com domain name until the last payment was done, and then I'll hand over that. That was an incentive really, because if they couldn't pay, I could then switch off the domain name and then everything would stop working. So that's something to bear in mind. Perhaps if someone can't pay straight away, you can just keep hold of one of the assets and then just transfer it over to them once they've completed the balance. The value that Vibecast has given me and still gives me today is enormous. 8-9 months later after selling it, I've probably outstripped the value that I've got from it more than the value that it's given me directly. It was really great to have on my portfolio, my CV. It kept a steady flow of jobs coming in. When I'm applying for jobs, it just showed that I had authority, or I know what to talk about. I was able to build and design and deliver something, and it worked, and do it on the side. Definitely helped me with work, but what I didn't anticipate was what happens after you sell it. Now, selling something, especially a side project, almost had, not quite to a huge degree, almost had the same effect as someone investing in it. Suddenly, because I'd sold it and I was quite public about selling it, I was inundated with all these sort of job offers and inquiries and communications and interesting offers that are coming from all around the world. But I did not anticipate that. That was an unintended consequences. And as a result from that, the first job I had after that was working for McDonald's, for an agency for McDonald's, building them the McDonald's Monopoly campaign app. And, it's used by millions of people over the end of the summer. And that's huge, probably the biggest project I've ever worked on. It was an absolute ball's ache, but there's no way I wouldn't have done that otherwise. And the next project, the one I'm at now, is for a significant size ticketing company, and I'm building them a kind of similar version for a different industry of Vibecast, None of this wouldn't have happened had I not sold or even started a side project like Vibecast. I'd like to put a shout out to MicroAquire. They are a service which I didn't realise existed when I was selling Vibecast myself. I discovered them shortly afterwards, and I've been watching their meteoric climb over this year. It's a huge business, what I'm doing, where people are starting side projects, getting a bit of revenue coming in, and then selling them. There's a marketplace, there's many marketplaces, but these ones look really good. I haven't been through the process myself, but I've seen many people that have. I've been watching the CEO on Twitter and spoken to other people that have gone through this process. Yeah, MicroAquire. Don't rule this out. If you are selling a product, this could be a good way to go. You might even get more money from it because everybody's centralized in one place, and there could be a bidding war, so to speak, for your product. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you have learned something or you found it useful, please do give me a like. If you've got any questions, leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer them. And I'd also like to let you know that I will be starting my next side project in a few weeks, except this time I'm going to be documenting the whole process so you can come and join me for the ride in building, designing, planning and launching the next project. So get subscribed because there'll be a new video coming up in a few weeks of me introducing it and telling you all about that. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.